a man, a war.
Somebody get these beggars out of here. So we're talking the Odyssey.
I wanted to actually record our reaction in the car after we had gotten out of the movie theater, but I think there needed to be a buffer period between experiencing that film and actually being able to process it and talk about it.
I personally was very, very emotional leaving the theater. Had a lot of things to overcome, so filming in the car was probably not an option. But it was really, really amazing, and what they did was kind of incredible at the end of the day. Not kind of, but unquestionably incredible at the end of the day. And it was just very powerful for me. I felt a lot of things from it. Just again, the stacking of things from loving these types of stories my whole life, all the way through to someone who's very, very passionate about film and cinema, and seeing actors that I love being a part of it. John Leguizamo being in it, that's something that that I've just always loved. John Leguizamo. I just really love John Leguizamo, and he's so versatile and so capable. And from his stand-up to his one-man shows to just The Pest, which I know so many people kind of shit on The Pest as just being such a bad movie, but I love what he does in The Pest. And then being Clown and Spawn and so on and so forth. I've just always followed his career.
Every scene that John Leguizamo was in, I loved it. But specifically when the fight was going on and he just was like, "Too loud, cowards," and he shuts the door on them. I went nuts during that part in the movie, just because he just kept calling them that like the whole time, and he was like legitimate, like they were always very loud. He was always kind of like being able to hear them. So we had like two very completely different appreciations film going in. Honestly, if I had to say even like there was a con, for me, it was a lot of the complaints that I had read online after I had watched the film. There was just other comments that to me went over people's heads. One that I didn't like was when they were like, "Oh, but it kept bringing up Roy again." And I was like, but each time that they did that was like Matt Damon's character felt differently about it in each of those versions. But maybe to some people who watch movies or TV differently, that stuff to them just seems more like repetitive and not necessary. I don't vibe with that. Like, I just don't believe it. I don't think it's true.
One of the things that I'd seen a few times was people saying that the Matt Damon's crew didn't seem as if there was enough urgency or anger or emotion. This is a group of people who had that trained out of them. They are really programmed to act in accordance to a certain manner and not to overreact and not to panic. And I think that the moments where that stuff did happen, it really lent to it. The scene where they're staying inside of the horse and the one guy wants to get out, but they hold him and he gets stabbed, the other guy gets stabbed, and they all stay with such composure. There's these moments where you see that happen, and I think it really helped to accentuate and make you feel that also a little bit more, seeing them have that reaction. But I thought that the performances were really, really wonderful. Going into it, I didn't know a lot about the movie except for the story of the Odyssey, that they were trying to maintain as much practical effects, as little CGI as possible.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And that they were filming on IMAX. And going into that, I am a person who really strongly feels that even for cheesy practical effects, they stand the test of time better than CGI. And the practical effects they had in this were exceptional. The enhancements that they did with CGI for the Cyclops puppet was so eerie and somehow authentic to the time. I really felt like I was looking at something that was an ancient projection of something. It didn't have incredible detail to it. It was so rough and formless, but still so well done. It seemed in the space, and I think that was the combination of those things. Of course, a lot of people have talked about the transformation scene of Xerxes and the crew into the pigs, but so many of these things were tasteful. I do think there's become such a reliance on CGI, and so much of it doesn't even look as good as it did once upon a time, because I think there's become these shortcuts and standardized ways of doing things. And I mean, everyone talks about the crunch for the effects teams. And so I think that it's lost a little bit of the weight that it had. You know, we recently watched the Endgame movie, and I talked about how up until that time, Thanos was the most incredible CGI I'd ever felt. I had never seen a CGI character that looked so in the space before, that they had weight and depth, and it didn't look like a hollow structure of a CGI framework, but it looked like a physical, if you poked it, you would get resistance as you pierced it or whatever it was. And this was one of those things that I really just think that the places that they put the CGI were so well done, and everything else was complementary and structured in a way that really is not something that I've seen in other places in the ways that I've seen it here. It was really, really beautiful.
I think they did a good job at least expressing what was important, who's this character. I didn't feel lost at all from anyone that they were referencing to. You know, it was good for people who are new to the story.
I think that anything that was different or that is inspired by something else is going to have their own flavor on it. I don't think that it takes anything away from it. I really was so surprised also by some of the performances.
Who surprised you the most?
Not just who surprised me the most, but it was the way that it happened in the movie that surprised me. Because Tom Holland is an actor that I've seen in a bunch of different stuff, and he's a really talented actor. And when I saw him in the beginning of the movie, I felt like he was a little more reserved and pulled back, and I felt as if, oh no, he might be overshadowed by the performances of other people. But I really think it was a character choice for him, because as he goes on his little journey, comes back, gets reacquainted with his home, meets his dad, well, he doesn't know it's his dad at the time. The growth that he has through all of that is so evident as a human that he plays, that he plays a human. I was just, it was a sense of relief and pride in him and all that, because like I said, at first I did have concerns, like, is he going to be a little bit distracting in what he's doing? But it wasn't. It was really seemed like it was a legitimate choice of his performance and something that he really evolved as a person. That's something else that we talked about, is that, you know, so many of the people really seemed like real people. There was never a point where I was really very much taken out of the movie thinking like, that's a person playing a character. That's, you know, oh, I see the person behind that. They were so invested and so wholly became these roles. Even the little scenes that certain people played, you know, so many people have spoke about that Xerxes scene. People committed wholly to this stuff. And the thing that I also think really lent support to that was the writing. Because one of the things that I said in the car as we were leaving is I felt like what was so neat about the writing is there wasn't any things that you really left quoting, you know, and it made it seem real, because there's so many times where I watch something and I think, oh, the writing's so good, it's so quotable, these great lines, but at the end of the day, it's not as authentic and natural. You know, people say quotable things, sure, but it didn't seem as if it was made to be that. It seemed so legitimately real, the way that people were speaking and reacting, and also authentic to the time. And I really felt that the whole way that this movie was put together and composed and was edited the right way, and people were held accountable for the quality of it in the right way. I really do think that it was a collective team effort that it was second to none, because there are so many movies, and especially for people like Christopher Nolan at their grand scale and recognition. And there's so many directors and filmmakers who fall into this trap of believing their own hype to a degree that they aren't edited. The people around them aren't telling them this is bad, this is something that needs to be changed, or potentially they've come to think that they're too infallible to listen to that. But I really think that the way that people came together on this and really looked at it and held it up to the scrutiny that it needed to come out to become what it was is something that so many movies haven't had when they do come out at this scale, especially in recent times. And I think that this was so well executed in so many levels. I'll just say, if you can see it in IMAX, definitely see it in IMAX. It is very, very epic and sprawling, and provides so much space for the scenes and characters in them in ways that the regular movie just doesn't. And if you have doubts about seeing it or something, don't, because I do think, just from a point of cinema, it is an incredible feat. And if you don't like seeing long movies, then, you know, wait for it to come out on something, but make sure you can get that full screen experience, because it is really designed for that IMAX enhanced viewing. You know, I know that Christopher Nolan's released other things with the IMAX scaling on it, so make sure that you can see it that way. Was so pleasantly surprised by it, and so sincerely enjoyed it. And you know, I don't know that I'll ever look at something the same way like I looked at that.
Did they announce what they made in the first weekend of the box office?
Odyssey earned 124 million domestically, 264 million total globally in its opening weekend. Budget for the Odyssey was 250 million. They imagine that the break-even point when it comes to all of the costs and distribution, etc., is somewhere between 625 and 750 million. And so it has already made 912 million. So it has already made back its money and guaranteed profit.
All right. That don't convince you.
Don't be convinced.
Don't be convinced, and don't watch the movie.